2024 PFL playoffs just wrapped up. This was the final week of a 3-straight-week run the PFL has in terms of the final events in the playoff round with the divisions that they have. Last night was the featherweights and the welterweights, with a couple of headlining fighters throughout the main card that are going to be some fighters that are fighting in the next round, which is the finals. We'll get into that a little bit later. Let's start from the bottom of the card, which on paper, to me, did not look very impressive. However, some of these guys really showed up and showed out, and a couple of them are going to be competing at the PFL MENA event later on in 2025, which is MENA, M-E-N-A, which is Middle East and North African regions, are going to be competing over there for the PFL championship in that region specifically, not just the American or whatever they want to call it now that they have going on currently, which will wrap up in November with the finals. To start off, Shido Boris Esperanza, however you pronounce that, defeated Tyler Hill. Very dominant performance. Showed up, showed out. I was impressed by his performance. He didn't look like much heading into it as far as I knew and as far as my knowledge took me. But I can tell you this guy really showed up. Finished the guy in the first round. Very, very impressive. Now, on to the next fight, which I have more to say. Maxwell Jonto-Nana. This guy is a legit heavyweight fighter. He's coming out of Cameroon. He may remind you in that aspect of Francis Ngannou, but this guy moves unlike most heavyweights. This guy's athletic, he's big, he's strong, he's well-rounded, and he's got power in his hands, and that is key here for the heavyweight division. Of course, as we know, he beat Kent Mafaleo, who I'm not sure how good he is. The guy isn't fantastic, but he's not awful. He's 6-2. He's fought some decent guys on the regional scene. But it doesn't really matter. All heavyweights are fairly similar in terms of skill until you get to the top echelon of the UFC and the other bigger promotions. Maxwell Jonto beat this guy up from pillar to post, from beginning to end. Absolute showcase bout. He mixed it up with takedowns. He moved well. He was slipping punches. He was moving like an actual fighter, not just some heavy-handed fat heavyweight. This guy looks really impressive. I was very impressed by this guy. Great pickup from the PFL. I think this guy is going to easily win the PFL MENA tournament. This guy's got heavy power in his hands. He's got great striking technique. His 1-2 down the pipe, the right cross that finished off Mafaleo was beautiful, where he was throwing some wild hooks to open up Mafaleo's guard and then came down straight down the pipe with a right cross. Absolutely beautiful finish. That shows that he has some fight IQ. He was able to mix it up, go to the ground, fight, and have some actual ability on the ground as well in terms of his just ground control, which tells me that this guy's got some actual fight IQ for a heavyweight, which is rare. I'm not saying this guy's going to go on to become the greatest heavyweight of all time, but this guy has some real promise, whether he ends up fighting for the PFL for the rest of his career or moves to the UFC. This guy has some real athletic talent. He's a real athlete. He's a real fighter. He's got real ability. He's got real prospects here. I'm excited to see what he does next. I'm going to be looking forward to his fights at the PFL MENA, which I wasn't looking forward to at all, but just because of this guy, he's drawn me in and I'm all in on him. This guy was really impressive. Look forward to anything that Maxwell Jonto-Nana is going to be doing next. Very impressive prospect coming out of the PFL MENA region. On to the next fight. Jose Perez versus Jesse Stern. Just two old heads. Decision, unanimous, pretty boring. It was a little scrappy. It wasn't the worst fight I've ever seen, but just two well-rounded average guys getting in there scrapping it out. Not a big fan of that fight. Not much to talk about. Those guys aren't going to go on to do anything. Two old heads, 30 and above. Not interested to talk about it. Here we go. Enrique Barzola versus Tyler Diamond. This was a fun fight. These guys got after it. Scrambles were crazy. Enrique Barzola always seems to come on at the end of fights. He got rocked at the end of the first round. He then came back and rocked Tyler Diamond in the second and then kind of went on to finish him off, clean up, piece him up in the third round. Very great performance from Barzola. Barzola just always has the cardio, the ability to push a pace on guys. They just can't keep up with him over 3 rounds. Great fight between these guys. Enrique Barzola, congrats on the win. Not much to say there. Go check it out. It was a good scrap if you missed it. Just a fun overall mixed martial arts fight where they were grappling, scrambling on the ground, going for a couple submissions, but mostly struck on the feet. Just technical, fast ability. Two guys. Tyler Diamond's pretty big for the featherweight division. Barzola's coming up from bantamweight. They made it competitive. It was fun to watch. All right, Ray Cooper. Like I spoke about in the preview, Ray Cooper. I was wondering, what kind of Ray Cooper are we going to see? Obviously, he lost the fight, as you can see here. Berkamov won. But Ray Cooper did come to fight. He came focused. He came prepared. He looked in good shape. He fought and made the welterweight limit. That was very, very good from Ray. Good to see him get back into some kind of, whether it was something that he was dealing with his mental health, physically, an injury. He seemed to be back in his mindset. He was back ready to fight. Good fight, back and forth. Ray Cooper obviously has the power to knock out anyone at any given time. Berkamov, there were a couple times where Berkamov was opening. Ray just barely missed him, but Berkamov kind of just pieced him up, got him to the ground, was able to insert himself in the grappling realm. Not a dominant decision. It was a fun, close fight. The guy with power was throwing like crazy, Ray Cooper, and Berkamov was just kind of piecing him up, staying at range, keeping those teep kicks going, keeping that jab going. Not much to speak on other than Ray Cooper may be back in terms of getting his mindset ready to fight. And that's what we want to see. Good for Ray Cooper to be back. Even in a loss, he showed out and showed that he's still ready to fight and still available to perform when needed. Okay, on to the main card. Obviously, as you can see on the page here, lots of decisions. All four went to decision. The Khizriev and Braga fight went to a split decision, which I found weird because whatever, we'll get into it in a minute. But Musayev, this guy coming out of nowhere, putting on great performances. He's now 19-0, beat Ramazanov. 8 weeks ago, he beat him with a knockout in the first round. This time, Ramazanov came out with a grapple-heavy approach. He could not take Shamil Musayev down at any capacity, in any way possible. He tried his best. Musayev was not able to be taken down at all. Great takedown defense, very flexible, very athletic on the feet. This was very impressive because Ramazanov, like we've talked about, was competing at one and kind of running through a bunch of guys at one championship, putting on excellent performances in the grappling and the striking. Musayev, he beat him where Ramazanov wanted to take the fight. He pieced him up on the feet. He couldn't take him down. And then in the second round, he took down Ramazanov, who was trying to take him down. This guy is much better than anybody anticipated that he would be. He's really getting to showcase his skills. And this whole entire PFL welterweight division is really just an absolute showcase for the Russian fighters. Very, very impressive by some of these guys on the come up. Very, very good for Musayev. This is going to be a great fight between him and Umalatov, who we'll get into later, who beat Neiman Gracie later in this card. Next up, Timur Khizriev versus Gabriel Braga. Gabriel Braga, the finisher, the more athletic, explosive fighter, did not and was not able to throw enough, get off enough on the feet. Timur Khizriev is fast on the feet and has good sticky grappling and can get to you at any time he needs. This guy is a decision machine. He is not the most interesting finisher, Khizriev, but you can tell this guy has really great scrambles. He's super fast, super just nimble in every aspect of the game. He was able to piece up Braga, who was dangerous on the feet. I was expecting Khizriev to take him down and hold him down for multiple rounds, multiple minutes at a time. Absolutely fantastic performance. Pieced up Braga on the feet. Again, not super decisive, but he was able to win each round. I don't know why it went to split decision. Braga lost arguably every round in close rounds. That doesn't mean that he got dominated. They just lost the rounds closely. Khizriev really showed what he has on the feet. Speed. And that's what you need when it comes to fighting some of these 145-pound guys, because some of them come down and have power, like lightweights. But other guys don't carry that power, and Khizriev doesn't look like he has the power, but he's got really good just technical striking, really good technical boxing, and he was just able to piece up Braga and get the win. Good for him. So it'll be Khizriev versus Loughnane in the finals. We'll get on to the Loughnane fight in just a minute. But next up, Magomed Umalatov, the unanimous favorite maybe to win this going into this season. He looked really good, kind of coming out of nowhere, and not that we knew he was good, but just the dominant performances, just how good this guy really is. He was much better than we anticipated, even though we were already thinking that he was really, really good. Neiman Gracie obviously taking this on short notice, as Don Madge, who was supposed to be fighting Umalatov, got injured. Something happened with him. Neiman Gracie comes in. He's really got no pressure on him to win this PFL playoff fight to get into the finals. If he wins, he wins. If he loses, it's just a late notice showcase bout. Good for him. Neiman Gracie, kind of on the tail end of his career, getting a little bit older in age. I thought Umalatov was kind of just going to run him over. Umalatov did piece him up. Neiman Gracie can throw down. He loves to throw down. Obviously, this guy's just a banger on the feet. He's not the most technical striker, but he can throw down when he needs to. Umalatov was piecing him up on the feet throughout the first round. Neiman Gracie kind of trying to get in on some of those clinch opportunities, not really getting Umalatov down to the ground. Neiman Gracie in the second round was able to get Umalatov down, threatened with a couple of things, but nothing too momentous. Just a quick couple of scrambles. Umalatov kept beating him up on the feet, but Neiman Gracie started to fight back in the second round, striking a little bit better, landing some of those big looping punches. But the third round, Neiman Gracie down 2-1 in arguably dominant fashion from Umalatov. Neiman wasn't really being that successful in any realm. The third round, though, Neiman Gracie got dropped early, and Umalatov got down on him, was getting off some ground and pound on him. Very impressive in that fashion. Didn't get caught up in any submissions. But later, he let him up. Gracie was threatening a couple submissions, threatened a triangle that wasn't really close. They got up, striking a little bit more. They got into a clinch scenario. Neiman was on the ground. Umalatov swept Gracie down to the ground, got into some ground and pound situations here. Neiman was able to almost lock up a calf slicer. Umalatov was just absolutely, utterly dominating Neiman. Neiman really didn't have anything. He wasn't threatening with any submissions up to this point. But halfway through the third round, he got really, really close with a calf slicer down on the leg. As Umalatov was trying to back out of the ground and pound, Neiman was able to just snatch up his leg, threatened with a calf slicer. Umalatov just had too much force getting out of it. He was able to just rip his leg through, not suffer any meaningful damage there. But Neiman Gracie, respect to him, he got up and kept throwing on the feet after that calf slicer. So he was able to, even though he was getting beat in the first two rounds, throw up a legitimate calf slicer that had a chance of getting in there. It was close. It was really close on the knee there. That ankle, knee, calf depth, you need to be in on the knee just far enough to get off that calf slicer. He was very, very close, and then he was able to get up on the feet and strike. Umalatov was looking at the clock for the last 2 minutes of the fight. Very, very impressive from Neiman Gracie in those last couple of minutes, but he did not win the fight. It was just too much of a dominant performance in the first two rounds from Umalatov. On to the next. We will be seeing Brendan Loughnane and Kai Kamaka face off in the main event here. Brendan Loughnane, really, really impressive performance. Just an overall dominant showcase fight with his striking, with his leg attacks. Kai Kamaka looked really, really solid in the first 2 or 3 minutes, throwing solid leg kicks, hurting Brendan Loughnane's leg. We could see it. His calf was starting to hurt. He had to switch stance. But Brendan Loughnane was throwing calf kicks back, able to just piece up Kamaka. Kai Kamaka is the faster, maybe even more technical striker. I don't know. Hard to say. They're very, very close there. He has better kicks than Brendan Loughnane, that's for sure. Head, body, and leg strikes, for sure. Kai Kamaka, those leg kicks that he throws. Brendan Loughnane just has more power. He's not a power puncher. He's not going to knock guys out. But Kai Kamaka is just a smaller guy coming up. Doesn't have the kind of power. Many guys, you would stereotypically think of him like a Max Holloway. He just piece. Nothing really, really damaging. But it's just a steady, ongoing pressure, plus the kicks. He can be dangerous for some guys. He has shown since leaving the UFC that he is a legit fighter. Respect to Kai Kamaka. But Brendan Loughnane just put it on him. Landed with more power throughout the fight. Not much to say here. All of these fights, from a casual perspective, were pretty boring. But some of them were just good showcase bouts. Just good scrappy fights. But nothing really to write home about. So, we'll be seeing Brendan Loughnane here versus Timur Khizriev in the finals in November. Here's what the bracket looks like from last night. Brendan Loughnane took on Kai Kamaka, defeated him, and Gabriel Braga lost to Timur Khizriev, who put on a dominant showcase bout against him. They'll be fighting in the PFL Featherweight Championship fight this November. Brendan Loughnane versus Timur Khizriev. As for the welterweights, it will be Musayev versus Umalatov. Musayev versus Umalatov in the 2024 PFL Finals. Shamil Musayev beat Murad Ramazanov, the former one championship fighter. Musayev looked really impressive, coming out of nowhere to get a couple of wins. Magomed Umalatov has been kind of thought of as the favorite after the first couple of fights this season. Took on Neiman Gracie, defeated him, so it will be Magomed Umalatov versus Shamil Musayev in the finals for the PFL Welterweight Championship of the World this November. Very, very excited to see how this all plays out in November. We've got a bunch of fights. It's going to be a loaded card of all championship-worthy fighters. Hopefully nobody gets injured and we can have a great pay-per-view experience. Looking forward to the PFL playoff final this November. I will see you then.